Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we motivate you, we inspire you, and boy, today we're going to encourage you. We have an amazing guest for you lined up today here on our show. I'm excited. He's going to bring a lot of wisdom, a lot of energy, and just a lot of joy. Right? I think of Rick Ornelas, and he's a beautiful person. He knows what he's talking about. So, Rick, welcome to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, my brother.
Daniel, thank you so much for that warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be on your show and pleasure to, have an awesome conversation with you.
Well, Rick, I know the amazing person you are, but do me a favor. Take a minute and introduce yourself to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, please.
Wow. Well, I am, first and foremost, I am a father. So I am a father and a family man, have 3 beautiful daughters, my lovely wife, Tanya, of 27 years. Beyond that, I'm an ultimate success coach, a best-selling author. I'm the founder of iSpark Change, and I'm all about loving and giving and serving others. And I do that through my coaching, I do that through my writing, I do that through speaking. But in all ways, I help people gain clarity and guidance to eliminate some of those roadblocks that are preventing their personal and professional success, so they can elevate their impact, spread positive change, and really flourish in life.
Man, I love it. I love it. And not only that, you're a beautiful person, right? You have a great heart and you're loving and you're caring. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you ahead of time, get out your pens, get out your paper, and you definitely want to take notes, because here we always say this in the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, what you write down, you retain a lot more of the information. So I want you not to miss the nuggets, the wisdom that's going to be conversed here today with Rick, and he's going to drop a lot of value. So remember, take some notes, write it down, and then you're going to go back and study those notes next week or in a couple of days, because I promise you it's going to leave an impact on your heart, your soul, and your mind today. Let me ask you this, Rick. As a coach, what is one of the biggest challenges you see right now in the people that you're serving and helping when it comes to business?
Wow, I'd say the biggest thing, and it's interesting because this has probably changed over the years. I've been coaching professionally for 7 years, and it's probably changed over time. But the biggest thing that I see currently, Daniel, is that I see that lack of belief in individuals, that they can accomplish something, that they can have the business they want, that they can reach the goals that they have. And I know that's been something that I've dealt with in my own life, is just, not always having that belief in yourself. And, even if someone seems very confident, as I always have been, there's always that one area, the 2 areas, those small things that, for whatever reason, probably the reason they're looking for coaching is that they don't quite believe that one thing. And so that's something that pops up, I'd say universally with everyone I coach, is that, that lack of belief in certain aspects of themselves or their business or where they want to be.
Yeah, so let me ask you this: when we encounter this, because I think so many times we reach a level of success, and then we get stagnant, we plateau. I know it's happened to me before, and you're like, well, you know what, I'm doing good. I had a good first half of the year. I had a good year to say, and we justify our results, and then God maybe puts an idea in your heart. You're like, well, do I really want to have another event, another live event? I know for me, it's like it's the responsibility and the growth in that. How do you guide somebody? What are 2 ways, right? If we'll just say you're coaching me right now, and I'm telling you, I'm thinking about starting a membership, and I want to start a membership, but I don't know what to name it or what I want to do. What are 2 words of wisdom that you would give me, Rick, that I can take with me and help me to guide me through the transition of starting to believe this for myself?
Well, first, I would say that the idea didn't come from nowhere, right? And the fact that you said, if God put it on your heart, or this idea comes into your head, there's something to that, and you can look at it as, depending on your audience, whoever's listening, they can look at it, hey, this is something that, I feel God is putting on my heart, or this is something that, maybe by virtue of the people that you've been working with, the people that you've been serving, it's a need that you see that you can fulfill for them. And so in that way that, there's a reason that the idea came to you, right? It didn't just pop out of nowhere, right? Just fall out of the sky, so to speak. So one, I would say that just realizing that, look, if that idea, if it's something that you can't get out of your head, if it's something that keeps recurring, if it's something that you feel like, man, I really feel that I should do this, then that should tell you something in itself, right? That there is a reason for it. And then number two, I would say, is whenever that hesitation comes, because I know I've dealt with this before, when that hesitation comes of like, oh man, that's going to be work, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be a lot of change, it's going to take a lot of time, I don't know if I want to do that, then what has helped me is to take the focus off of myself, to stop focusing on all the things that I have to do and focus on all the benefits that it's going to provide for everyone else. And we just launched something. We launched something similar, and yes, it is a lot of work. Yes, it does take a lot of time. Yes, it's something different. Yes, it's uncomfortable. All of the things I mentioned, right? But what has been very rewarding for me, just in the first month that we've launched it, is seeing the benefits that it's providing for everybody else, seeing how they're already having success, they're already loving it, they're already building relationships with one another, and they're already getting so much value out of it. And so when I look at that and think of that, I don't care about the rest, right? I don't care that it takes time, whatever, that becomes so small, right? It just makes it so little in my eyes that who cares about that? Because now it's beneficial for them, and that's all that matters, is that I'm serving them and I'm helping them to be better.
Wow, you just gave our audience a different perspective. So sometimes when we get that doubt, that unbelief wants to set in, it's because we're focused on ourselves. We're kind of, what you're saying is, and this is what I heard from myself, Daniel, you're being selfish if you don't want to do it. Is that what you're saying, right? Because there's selfishness. So, ladies and gentlemen, think about what Rick's saying and write this down. When that unbelief sets in, when the fear sets in, are you focused on just yourself? In a sense, you're being selfish. And if it is a God-given idea, well, there's people out there that need that idea. That's why it was given to you, and you need to act upon that. I've never heard it said that way. I love the way you orchestrated that. I mean, that was powerful, Rick.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Daniel. And I have to say that, I can't take credit for, I mean, I learned that somewhere. One of my mentors taught me that years ago, because I struggled with that myself, right? I was always, when I was a younger man, I was selfish. Yes, you hit it on the head. Selfish. Selfish is probably the most accurate word. And I was a very selfish, individual as a young man. And it wasn't until different situations, things in my life where God had to point things out, that I realized, I'm like, no, this is not about you. Like you have to get past that and focus on everyone else. And that's where I really started to flourish. And it's no different whether it's, one particular situation or just kind of in life. I think, if you can take the focus off yourself and put it on God and others, and that's where you're going to have, the most reward and the most success.
I love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, write that down. Where am I not taking action on the ideas that I have? Where are you not taking action right now? Or where maybe do you not have the belief that you can even accomplish it or do it? Those are big questions to ask yourself, especially as we're starting the new year here, still in the first quarter of 2023. You want to get whatever is blocking you from taking action, whatever is blocking you from believing in yourself, whatever is blocking you right now. One of the best ways to combat that is just to take action and do it. And it's not going to look pretty. Sometimes it doesn't look pretty, Rick, right? You just go out there and you do what you can and you figure it out along the way. And then from there, it orchestrates and it becomes the beautiful flower that it's supposed to be. And it takes time sometimes. It takes different approaches. It takes different trials and failures. But guess what? At the end of the day, you have to start somewhere. And I love that quote from Zig Ziglar that says this: you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. And that's one thing that I've carried with me from Zig Ziglar these past 5 years, is because I take that to heart, because sometimes I come up with ideas. I'm like, how the heck am I going to do this? And it looks messy. It looks ugly. But at the end of the day, you have a product that brings value to the marketplace, but it has to start somewhere. If you think of the iPhone, right? We're already on iPhone 14. Imagine if they would have not started the iPhone at all, because it's like, well, what is it going to be like in 25 years? Well, nobody knows, but you have to start somewhere. Let me ask you
Yep.
this. where was there a time, if you don't, I'm sharing this with this guy, I love for the audience to hear your heart. Where is there a time that unbelief really set in, and you didn't, you had to really overcome this in a big way, and how did you overcome it, and what was the success behind that?
Well, I think that the biggest example for me in my life, Daniel, is where is the writing of my book, 12 Hours of Heaven, Lessons for a Better World. Because the original idea, you talk about God putting an idea in your head or in your heart, right? The original idea for that book came after I was in a major car accident with my family, 20, 22, 23 years ago. And I knew at that time that the idea that story was special. I knew that I needed to do something with it. And I wrote maybe a page in Word in my computer, right? I wrote about a page in Word, and then went back to my selfish ways and my life about myself, and didn't do anything with it for 20 years.
Wow.
And then it wasn't until, probably God felt I was ready, or, in my head, I was thinking the timing was right when COVID hit, and all of a sudden, we're in quarantine, and we all have all this time on our hands. And I even fought it then. Because I was like, well, no, I need to focus on me, and how am I going to generate revenue for my business that's suffering, and all these things. And then God kept telling me, no, it's time to finally write this book. People need inspiration. People need hope, right? Your book can provide that for people. And so 20 years later, it took 20 years of stubbornness, or 20 years of not fighting that, to finally say, okay, now I'm going to do it. And I'm going to overcome that fear, if you will, and write the book. And, there's probably hundreds of examples throughout my life, but that's the biggest one. And I think it will probably resonate with people, because it doesn't have to be that you come to that realization 2 days later, right? Or an hour later. Sometimes it's going to take time. Sometimes it takes growth. And I think for me, it was a lot of growth, a lot of time, a lot of life learning, life lessons, over 20 years for me to get ready to where, I was able to take that next step, and take and write my book.
I love that. I went through the same challenge. I think that imposter syndrome sets in, and I fired I didn't get a chance to fire my first publisher, but I almost did. Like, we got into a heated verbal debate, and I said, just, I actually asked him for my money back. He got mad at me. And then I think I asked him the second week, I said, just give me, you know what, don't even worry about the money. I go, just keep the damn money. Because I was in the first or second chapter, and they were coaching me, just write, just don't worry about it, just write it. And then there was a part of me that just, like, I don't know. I didn't believe that I could do it. Even though I was waking up, I had a set time at 4:30 in the morning. I was writing the book. I was asking God for help. But the thing is, this is sometimes, and I want your perspective on this. That old you, that old you is still back there. That old you is like holding you by the shirt. Come here, Daniel. Where are you going? Right? What are you doing? And that old you, as he's pulling you back, the new you's trying to go forward. And literally, he goes, Daniel, I don't want your darn money. I'm not gonna. I'll give you your money back, but it's not about the money. It's about helping you finish your book. And it really allowed me to see that, man, someone really cares for me to get my book out there. Someone really cares to get my story out there. And he got on me on the phone call, like it was a heated phone call. And just the fact that he held me accountable, it's the first time somebody held me accountable with love. They were stern, but I realized that, man, he's right. And sometimes our own I don't want to say ego, but our own pride gets in the way. And sometimes you got to open your heart to receive what God's trying to say through other people. And
Yeah.
sometimes we don't want to hear that.
Yeah, it's so true. I agree completely, Daniel. And I see it as two components, right? I see it as first component is that's a component of leadership in the other individual. And we all can be leaders in different capacities, right? We all lead others every single day, whether we realize it or not. And a big component that I see of leadership is is oftentimes helping others to see things that they can't see in themselves. And sometimes that's hard, right? Sometimes it's a loved one, sometimes it's a, you know, a friend, a close friend, family member, someone very close to you. And those are difficult conversations, you know, just like you had a difficult conversation with your publisher. That's where you know, he may be hearing something that probably deep down you knew it was right, but you know, that old Daniel is saying, no, is fighting it. You know,
Like,
the old
yeah,
Daniel
come
pulling you by
here.
the shirt is trying to pull you back and not let you accept it. And so one is first, you know, being open to that leadership, to that, and you know, yes, it comes from God, but it's through an individual, like you're saying. And then the second part is having the self-awareness to realize that, okay, maybe I'm being blinded by my own eyes, and there's things that others can see in me that I can't see, right? And that self-awareness, that's another component of leadership that I think a lot of us, and myself included, you know, in many situations, we fight that because of that old self, because of the comfortability, because of the so-called identity that we feel we have. Whereas in reality, we are constantly growing, constantly evolving, constantly changing. And so the Daniel or Rick of today in 2023 is not the Daniel or Rick of even 2022 or 2020 or 2015, right? We're definitely far different people. And so if you can have a little bit of awareness and say, okay, look, they're probably seeing something that I don't see in myself, and I'm going to be open to receiving it, and, you know, look at it from external viewpoint, right? Look at it through God's eyes, if you could, as opposed to, you know, their eye, the person's eyes, and God's eyes, if you could, as opposed to your own stubborn eyes.
Yeah.
Then maybe you will see what they see and be open to that change.
I love what you said. Ladies and gentlemen, write that down. Sometimes it takes someone else to see something in you that you don't see in yourself. I love the way you worded that, right? Sometimes it takes somebody else to see something in Rick that Rick cannot see in himself. Sometimes it takes somebody else to see something in Daniel that Daniel cannot see in himself. And you watching, you listening right now, maybe it takes somebody else to see something in you that you can't see in yourself. Maybe you think you're incapable. Maybe you think you don't have the abilities. Maybe you don't think you're smart enough. I'll never, you know, talking about this, you know, one of the dumbest things that came up to me as as our business was growing, and then really taking it to the next level in 2021. This is the question that came up for me as far as being, it wasn't if I was good enough. It was like, am I smart enough? Am I smart enough to be a millionaire? How dumb is that, right? Now that I look back and think about it. But that was a true limited belief. That was a true block in me that was saying, am I really smart enough to be a millionaire? And I was like, what is it? Like, what is it, God? Like, what is it? What's sabotaging me? How am I self-sabotaging myself? And louder than loud, I heard this podcast, and then I heard it again. I saw something on LinkedIn, and it had to do with being smart enough. And the fact that I don't have a formal college education. And God says, you don't need one. I've already validated you. You've already had so much success. Embrace what I'm trying to give you.
Mm-hmm.
So many times we just don't think, for me, I was smart enough. And just know that right now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to me and Rick talk, all that you need is within inside you now. All that you need for that idea is inside you. And then the beautiful thing is, once you start to march forward, like Rick started marching forward with the book, and I want to hear the story as he finishes the book story. Rick started writing the book this past 2020 during COVID, and everything that you needed, it came to you, did it not, Rick?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's taking that, it's like you said, the quote from Zig Ziglar is just taking that first step. You know, it's taking that first step and taking action. And you know, you just trust that the next step is going to be laid out before you, right? And that's what God did for me when I was writing the book. When I wrote the book, I had never written a book, right? And I literally Google how to write a book, and I find something from Brian Tracy about writing 500 words per day, and, you know, consistent like you did, right? Same time, consistent, all that. And so I go to write, and the time for me was the afternoon at that time, and I started writing very consistently, like my 500 words a day and everything. And then, you know, I like to say that God had other plans, because as I started writing, and I started writing the beginning of April, and I figured, well, okay, at this pace, it's going to take like 6 months or 8 months, and I'm just going to go about it. Well, when I hit like the beginning of June, that's where I was just so spiritually connected with God and so open to receiving and everything, that I felt as if the story was just being given to me. And I went from writing like 500 words in a day to writing like over 2,000 in a couple hours. And I finished the book in under 3 months, in just under 3 months.
Wow.
And, you'll appreciate this part of the story is that, so it's July, right? Um, and I'm in that period. It lasted probably like 5-6 weeks where I was just so connected and the story's kind of pouring out of me. And I was like, wow, I'm like kind of getting close to the end. Right. And my dad had passed away a year earlier in 2019 on July 25th. And it was like a few weeks before that. And I was like, man, I still got, I got kind of a lot to write, and I was like, man, it'd be really nice if I could finish it by that time, because I had been like, God had been kind of planting that seed, reminding me like, you should really write this book. You should really write this book. And even in 2019, before my dad passed away, I told him that I was going to write that book that had been in my head forever. Right. And it took another year till 2020 to do it. But I had even told him, right. And he was so excited at the time that he was in the hospital. He had fallen, and which is what eventually he went downhill. He's 96 when he passed away. And he was in the hospital and he got so excited. He immediately called my sister and she didn't answer. And so he sent her a text message to tell her I was going to write a book. And then he called the nurse. He pressed the call button so the nurse would come in, just so he would have someone to tell that I was going to write a book, right? Because he was so proud and so excited of his son. And so I said, what a tribute it would be to him if I could finish. And I finished on July 24th, and I wrote the foreword or not the foreword. I wrote the introduction on the 25th, and I finished the book on the 25th, the anniversary of his death. And I share that because it was me being open to God, being open to receive, being open to say, okay, I don't know the next step, but I'm just going to go through the process. And then what a beautiful journey it was for me writing the book. And had I been resistant or said, oh, I need to know exactly how long it's going to take, and I need to know what the path is going to be, then it would have taken me, the whole year, right? It probably would have taken, 9, 10, whatever, a year to write it. And so I think that's important, of just, that openness.
Yeah, I love it, because I went through that thing with my third book, The Makings of a Millionaire Mind. There was a part of me as I was writing it, I felt like, well, who's Daniel Gomez to be writing about money? Who's Daniel Gomez to be writing about the millionaire mind? Who is this guy, right? Like, and I stopped writing it. And literally, I remember I sent over. I remember I sent over the transcript to my editor, and she didn't get it. It was just it didn't work out. The first paragraph or something I sent to her, and I said, I sent it to you. And to make a long story short, I stopped. And one morning, my wife came to me and says, God said, how come you stop writing the book? It's time to start writing the book again. And I said, well, I'll start in Christmas time. And guess what? Christmas time came and went. It didn't happen. And then my wife came to me again and says, okay, God's not asking you to write this book. He says he's telling you to write this book. And man, that put a fire under me, because I was like, for my wife to come in and talk to me with this boldness that she never does, I said, that's not my wife, that's God.
Yeah, that's great.
But sometimes I share this with what we're talking about, because maybe the topic you're thinking about writing in your book, you're thinking like, maybe who am I to write a book on XYZ? Who am I to write a book on lawn care? Who am I to write a book on speaking? Who am I to write a book on roses or flowers? It doesn't matter if that's ideas in your heart. You're going to get the concepts and the ideas that are going to flow to you, like Rick said. And maybe the blockage in your business right now, maybe your life isn't growing because you're thinking that all you'll ever be is an hourly employee earning $15 an hour or $20 an hour. No, God has bigger plans for you. God has that CEO position for you. God has your own business waiting for you, but you got to dream bigger. You got to open up your capacity to believe it for yourself. And And I applaud you, Rick, for finishing your book, because in finishing your book, that puts you in the top 2% of the world's population, that you did something that 98% of the other world didn't do, right? 90% of the other people didn't do. Think about that. And every time I have an author that we're helping or coaching in their speaking career and guiding them through whatever process we're helping them with in their business, I say, let me tell you something. You're among the elite. You're among the elite top 2% of the world, because 98% of the world has not even thought about or even attempted to write a book, and you finished the book, Rick. So the fact that you finished your book makes you in the top 2%. And I had one of my clients just start crying because they didn't realize what an accomplishment it to them. They just kind of, I wrote a book, good, great. No, and it was a good book. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
Like we undermine, we belittle our accomplishments when really it's not a little accomplishment. Becoming an author is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it is. And I think, you know, probably in today's world where there's so much accessibility to information, there's so much distraction, there's, you know, people are always on, you know, with social media and online and everything, that there's just, you know, distracted a million, you know, times per day, that to kind of slow down and think for a second and think of the, you know, the value, the gravity of writing a book, as an example, is something that people don't think about, because, you know, social media, the internet, they cheapen things like that, because they're like, oh, there's probably people out there that, you know, they just slap something in a pages and slapped it on the cover and you know, put it out there as, oh yeah, look at this book, trying to get rich or whatever. But it's not about, you know, like the things that you and I have written, that we've poured our heart and soul into them, and, you know, want it to be impactful and to help others. And so, yeah, that is a big deal. It is a big deal. And, you know, it is an impact of God, you know, putting it in our minds and our hearts to help others.
So, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you're listening to this right now and you're belittling what you've accomplished. I want you to get a different point of view. I want you to go to a different part of your house, look at your house from the kitchen, look at your house from a different angle in your living room. It's a different house when you look at it from a different perspective. What you've accomplished is bigger than you think. Don't undermine your success. Don't belittle what you've been able to do to this point. But this is the key point, is don't let this be the stopping point for you. This is just now, it's a foundation for your next level to go up. So now, if you've written that book, now go out there and share that book, market that book, speak about your book, maybe turn your book into a course. Maybe for you, maybe you make some amazing apple pies, right? Well, great. You came to the courage of, I'm making my pies, I'm selling them now out of my kitchen. Well, maybe now it's time for you to buy a bigger oven, a commercial grade oven, and it's $1,000 more investment than what you thought. But that bigger oven is going to help you make 5 times as many pies, and it's going to grow your revenue monthly. Well, guess what? Let the fact that you even sold those pies already, now the next level is going to be, I'm going to sell not tens of pies, but I'm going to sell hundreds and thousands of pies. And just really see a bigger vision for what is for you this coming year of 2023. And nothing breaks my heart so much, Rick, when you see people that they have potential, like you said. When you help somebody, let me ask you this: what's an example? You don't have to give us a name of a client or nothing, but what's an example where you help? Because I really spoke to my heart when you said that. When you help somebody see something in themselves that they didn't even realize they saw in them.
Wow. You know, I'm going to use an extremely recent example, because it's literally, I just came off a call before we started recording this episode with a client. And, you know, this is a client who's a photographer. And, you know, he came to the realization that he was undervaluing his services, that he was undervaluing what he was providing for his clients. And it wasn't until, you know, I had him walk through all the different things he does, because he does things that no photographer does. I mean, to a level that no photographer I've ever worked with or heard of, you know, things I've never even heard of that he does that for his clients. And because it's his wheelhouse, because it's stuff that he deals with every day, he didn't see the value in it. He didn't see that they were a big deal. And when I pointed that out, he was like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. Like there's no other photographers in Houston that do this, and and stuff like this. And it was really cool to see, that he realized that. I mean, extra cool that it literally happened right before we recorded the show, but there's been lots of examples like that. And I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier, Daniel. I think it goes back to, we have those blinders, we have those, internal eyes that we're viewing everything from that, our lens, as opposed to looking at from that external view or God's viewpoint. And especially if it's something that we do every day, right? If you coach every day, or you write, or you speak, or you have a podcast, whatever, and you're like, oh, well, I'm good at it because I do it every day, right? It's just kind of normal. But to thousands or millions of other people, like the book, they're like, oh, I could never write a book. Oh, I could never do this. I could never do that. And so when you think of it from that perspective, that's where it's like, wow, I shouldn't cheapen this, or I shouldn't lessen that this is accomplished, as an accomplishment.
Yeah. Well, what came to mind when you said that about the photographer, because he walks in that every day, and sometimes it just becomes it's part of our habits now, right? It's part of
Mm-hmm.
it's like taking a bath. You don't think about, am I going to brush my teeth? Am I going to put shampoo first on my hair? What am I going to do first? You just take a bath or shower because you just have your routine. You don't even realize it. It's like when you get in the car, you don't think about it. Well, when you walk in photography, you already know the steps are programmed, right? You get to wherever you're going, you set up your camera, it's already automatic, and you don't think about the what it took to get to that point. And what came to mind for me is it's kind of like when we plant those beautiful roses and those rose bushes in front of our house. We drive up to our house, Rick, and we're like, wow, check out those beautiful roses, man, they look beautiful. Yeah, I love them. They're blooming, right? A week later, and then a day later, they're so, man, they look so beautiful. And then next thing you know, 6 months down the road, you're like, you forget to talk about the roses because now they just became part of the backdrop.
Yeah, it's so true. And I'll give you a great example of this. I love your example of the roses because it's something that you're pulling up every day. So you're seeing it every day. So as you know, I live in Texas now, but I'm originally from California. And for 13 years, my wife and I lived on the central coast of California, which is a beautiful part. It's right in the middle on the coast of California. You have the ocean and the mountains. And like the freeway, the 101, the one freeway is right in between. And I would drive that every day. And people travel to California just to do that drive, right? Just to do that drive every day, right? They'll drive up and down the coast and to see the oceans and the mountain and be driving that, right? And it's just so beautiful. And I drove it for every day, and I took it for granted. I didn't would drive focused on the freeway, not even taking a glance at the ocean or the mountains half the time, or I'd see them and they just wouldn't really like. I'd see them, but I didn't appreciate the beauty of it all.
Yeah.
And then my wife and I went back to visit for Thanksgiving a few months ago, and we're doing that same drive, and we're like, oh wow, how beautiful it was. Oh man, I miss living here. Oh, it's so beautiful, all this, and we did that whole drive, and I'm like, man, I had this every day for years of my life, and didn't see the beauty and everything that God was providing for me on a daily basis until it was all gone, and I have to go back years later to realize it.
Man, isn't it amazing though? That's how ladies and gentlemen, ask yourself that right now, what Rick's talking about. What are you not recognizing and appreciating in your life right now that you don't even realize it, but you've already taken it for granted? Is it the fact that you have a beautiful scenic loop through the hill country? Or maybe you live in Colorado and you get to see the beautiful mountains, or you're in California and maybe you are on that 101 highway right now and you're more worried about things that are minute instead of really enjoying the beautiful breeze. And believe me, when I went to Malibu. I had never been to Malibu before. To see the ocean there, that was a view. But I really want you to think about that, ladies and gentlemen. What are you taking for granted right now? What are you having so much of that at first you were excited, you were grateful, and now you fail to recognize that it's something special that you're able to be a part of or participate in or just to enjoy for your life, because it's part of the back, right? It's just part of the back scenery now. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Those things that right there is going to keep you from enjoying the blessings you have. It's going to keep you from being appreciative of it, and that's going to keep you from going to the next level. Because one thing that I've learned in life is, especially in business, is that gratitude is the key for promotion. Gratitude is the key for more. And if you're, and I'm not talking about a shallow gratitude. I'm not talking about, oh yes, I'm grateful. No, like when you really, really feel it and you're like, man, wow, that's where promotion comes in, because that's when our God says, okay, Daniel got it. I can trust him with more now because he's truly appreciative of what he has. And it's easy to forget those little things, Rick.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I love what you're saying about gratitude is the key, because again, I was selfish. I wasn't always the grateful person, and I had to learn to become the grateful person. And I mean, I begin and end every day with gratitude, with scripture and gratitude, and journaling, and expressing gratitude and writing things down. And when you make that a practice, when you make that a part of your life, you start being grateful for everything. You start seeing the roses as you pull up, and seeing the ocean as you're driving by, and those things. Like, I'll give you another example. I get to the gym at 5 a.m. and most of the time I'm leaving around 7. And as I pull out, there's this nice open area where there's no construction or anything, so it's an open area, and I get to see the sunrise. Most mornings, if it's clear, I get to see the sunrise. And every time, it's a nice, pretty picture, I'll snap a picture, right? And I'll snap a picture, I'll share it on social media and everything, because I want to share it with others because it's so beautiful. And until I became the person that was expressing gratitude and journaling gratitude and everything, pull on out, drive home, not notice it at all. Right. But now I notice all those things because my mind is tuned to that frequency. It's tuned to that gratitude frequency. It's tuned to the awareness. And it's such a beautiful place. It's like before I was, watching TV on like old school black and white TV. And, now I'm like, 4K, full, crystal clear, beautiful, or 3D or whatever. Like, it's all so vivid. And that's how I feel I'm living my life now, not because I'm special or different from anyone else, but just because I'm grateful and I'm aware of it, and my eyes are open, and God is all those things. God's, showering them down. It's just, you got to be open. And so I think I'm just open to all of those now. And anyone can be that way, right? You just have to be open to it.
I love it, man. What's your best business advice that you can give us today?
Ooh, business advice. It's going to go, Dan, it's going to go right in line with the things we've been talking about today. It's going to be to take the focus off of yourself and look to serve others. When you look to serve others and you're grateful for the opportunity to serve others, like we just talked about, grateful, you're bringing that gratitude piece into it. When you're grateful for the opportunity to help and serve others in whatever you do, right? You could be working at McDonald's, be the cashier, but you're serving others, right? How may I serve you? Right? When you make it about them, about the service of others and helping others to improve, or helping to make their life better in some way, or their day better in some way, then you will see your business flourish. You will see opportunities come your way. You will see your business grow, and you'll be so filled and fulfilled that, it'll be a beautiful business and a beautiful life.
I love it, man. What's a word or a scripture that you rely on in times of adversity?
I would say scripture would be Jeremiah 29:20. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to not harm you, plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope and a future. Because it speaks to everything we just talked about.
I love it. Man, you've been an amazing guest. So where can we get your book, and what's the title of your book one more time before we end up this amazing episode, brother?
The book is 12 Hours of Heaven, Lessons for a Better World. It's the subtitle. It's available on Amazon, on, online. You can find it anywhere. It's on Google Play. We have it on Google Play as an audiobook as well on Google Play. But yeah, I mean, anywhere, Amazon, check it out. I'd love to hear what people think of it. If they read it and they get some inspiration, or they get a good message out of it, and, love to hear what people think of the book.
Brother, thank you so much for being an amazing guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for this week's episode. What an amazing topic we had today. So many nuggets taken out of it. If you're stuck in life, if you're stuck in business, reach out to us. We want to help you. Maybe you're that aspiring author. Well, we here at DG Enterprises, we want to publish your book with DG Enterprises Publishing. We can help you with that. We want to help you become that paid professional speaker that you have in your heart. And if you're stuck in business, even better, go to danielgomezglobal.com, do our free entrepreneurs assessment where we give you feedback and we help you do that with a complimentary 45-minute discovery session. Once again, thank you for joining us here this week. And if you want to personally reach out to me, email me at daniel@danielgomezspeaker.com and send me a question, send me a message, whatever I can do for you. I want to add value to you. And once again, we'll see you next week here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show with another amazing guest like Rick today. Rick, thank you again for joining us, brother.
This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to danielgomezinspires.com and get your copy today. That's danielgomezinspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.